Nothing has to change externally. Your inner space is you. What is happening on the external space is merely a projection of your inner space. It's always been you, and it always will be you. This is an understanding that is the grand understanding that brings us closer to the great divinity, great God, and how we are a version of God, and how God is represented in all of us, and how we are connected, and there's that oneness, and we're all just living our own versions of life, and our versions of life are connected to each other, and they reinforce each other, and they influence each other. And as much as I am expanding self, I'm expanding self because I seek to connect outward. I'm expanding self to still come back and understand other people, understand the world. My understanding of self only expands my understanding of the world. My understanding of the world reinforces and expands my understanding of self. Everyone around me in the world is a reflection of me, because the way that I perceive them and the world is a reflection of my inner space. So I wanted to kind of explain how I see this flow. So remember, I spoke of the big picture and how we're merely puzzle pieces in the big picture, right? Everyone has their own unique perspective, everyone has their own unique gifts that they bring to the bigger picture. And there's a reason for us to connect on that level, right? I noticed that when it came to the healing themes, there was there was an interesting pattern, and I spoke briefly about this earlier when it came to the accountability to the ease, which essentially represents one end of polarity to the other, where you go, you put in action, and then you just sit back and be at ease, right? But I wanted to paint a bigger picture of that. So there are three fundamentals to this whole gist, right? And I think that also represents how life works from perspective. So we have God, who is almighty, period. We have self, which is us, which is our inner self, which is our true self. And we have the world, which is the external. So remember, I said that we're all connected, and we're all connected in the bigger picture. And the way we're connected is for a greater good in on this earth, the way God designed it. So God, self, world or external. Now, I see it as the journey to this true self is the version of self that is closer to God, right? That is tapped in and is a direct connection as I see it. So there is a need for us to evolve and keep evolving to this version of self that is connected to God in a way that places us not just connected to God, but also connected to the world. I remember I spoke of the oneness, right? And so the oneness reinforces that self and connection to the world, just as the self is connected to God. So think about it like I'm self and I'm holding God and I'm holding the world. And then we're all connected in that way. So remember with accountability, right? And with ease and all these healing themes that I had mentioned, we went from action, which I would see as external tangibility, like actually doing the thing, actually taking the steps on an external tangible level, through asking ourselves what else is possible. So from wounding, we asked ourselves what else is possible. We got to accountability. That's an evolution. And that makes us take action, external tangibility. And we went from what else is possible, even with self motivation, we also have what else is possible. So self motivation moves from ease and asks what else is possible. So accountability and self motivation asks what else is possible, taking action. Now, From there, we go to content and feeling enough, which is the internal space, which is an embodiment of the actions that had been taken to now be content and enough in that and embody it. And that's us seeing ease. So we go from accountability to ease, and we go from self motivation to acceptance. So that is going from the actions we've taken on the external level to embodying it on the internal level. And I see how with accountability and ease, we're still playing it on the external metrics, as in the metrics of the world, as in this is what the world has told us is right and wrong. This is how the world has done it. This is what it means to be doing something good, right? But once we get to self motivation and acceptance, we're coming from a place of personal power. We're coming from a place of that self and inner metrics that only us understand, right? And mind you, we've gone from what the world has told us to be, so we already have that covered. And then we're now covering the self and inner metrics because that's very important. Remember, the big picture is God, self, world, or external. So there is a need for us to understand the world, but there's also a need, and dare I say, well, none is better than the other. That's me being biased, but no, I'll be unbiased. No, none is better than the other. But just as much as there is a need to understand the world metrics, there's also a need to go back inside and understand our own inner guidance, our own inner metrics to come from a place of personal power. Because remember, if we're unique puzzle pieces in the bigger picture, then our uniqueness has to be there as much as our connection in the bigger picture has to be there. So we get to understand the world metrics, we get to act out from the world metrics, we also get to embody what that feels like without needing to keep doing. And then we go towards the self, which is also important. We act out through self motivation, but we also need to embody it through acceptance. It's really important for us to understand that as much as we want to do and produce, you need to embody the things that you do, right? Again, the core truth here, my truth, and the truth that I've gotten from my experience and understanding is that we want to embody peace, happiness, freedom. And that is not something that you're getting on the outside, right? As much as our actions, the efforts that we put in to keep doing the inner work, to keep evolving as people, is very necessary. It is also necessary to embody the things that you're doing, to embody the actions that you're taking. Because at the end of the day, it's embodiment that we seek. It's feeling fulfilled. It's the feeling of fulfillment, right? The feeling of fulfillment, as much as your actions would take you closer to that feeling, would add to it, would reinforce it, of course. But I really want to talk about embodying it because it's interesting that, and again, all is in the becoming. So I see how a lot of people still, want to chase from my observation, chase things, and that is good. But if you understand that there is also a need to embody the thing that you chase, just as there is summer and there is winter. Summer, the sun is out. Winter, it gets dark quickly. There is a time to be outside. We outside. And there's a time to come back to your solitude, to your hermit mode, to your winter period where you're indoors, you are reflecting, you're embodying, you are being. Important that we realize how embodiment is just as important as taking action. And I see how that plays out when it comes to these healing themes of consciousness and the flow across them. And I just wanted to point that out. You have understanding, which is, that last healing theme of consciousness up there. um, with understanding, now you're taking an unbiased perspective of self and the world. Understanding says, okay, I want to go seek more knowledge. I want to go outside of myself, outside of the things I know so far, and I want to seek more knowledge. So understanding bridges the gap between the self and the outward, again, external. So with understanding, there is a balance. There is an embodiment of who you are already, having, gone through this cycle of the world metrics being accountability is, to the inner metrics being self-motivation and acceptance, to finding that balance across, right? So understanding says, yes, just as much as being in your personal power is important, it's also important to connect the dots with the world, because you are the world, you are of the world, just as much as the world is you. We are all one. And and that's what unconditional love really shines light on, that there is a oneness, right? And so I just love how there's this play across the internal, the external, and finding that balance as well. So that's something I wanted to point out. And just as much as there is that self internal world external connection that still brings everything back home to how we're connected to God, there is again a need to embody the things and the lessons that we learn, as much as we are taking action, we are doing the inner work, we are reflecting, we are um trying to do better, right? We're asking ourselves what else is possible. As much as we're doing that, the things that you have come to, the knowledge that you have gained from asking what else is possible, you have to embody that, you have to be it, you have to solidify it and feel it on the inside, so that you really solidify it for yourself, that it's not about anything that you're doing on the outside. At the end of the day, it's how you feel on the inside that projects, that reflects the world that you see on the outside. And this is also a personal experience, right? Not to get carried away with perpetually trying to fix something. Like, you're not broken. As much as I'm sorry. As much as you're trying to heal and evolve and be this better version of self, like, the intention is already says a lot, but you're not broken. So sometimes it's like, in my experience, it felt like I was always looking for something to fix and looking for something to this and this and that and that. But with this flow, you keep reminding yourself to take a chill pill, take a step back, and be the thing that you have been so far, the thing that all the lessons you've learned, embody them, be them, like, feel it, experience it for yourself, internalize it, right? And you are always in the becoming. So just as you are right now, you are perfect. Like, you are literally perfect. Today, as I was trying to film, so many things happened, right? And I could start picking them apart and saying, oh, and looking for all the wrong things as to why I shouldn't film. But I saw that as a perfect opportunity to remind myself of the lessons, right? But I'm not reminding myself of the lessons to feel like, oh, I need to be a certain way to then to feel the need to show up to you guys. And that's something I struggled with at the beginning of my YouTube journey. I felt like, oh, I had to have everything figured out to show up and share my experience. I had to be this perfect version to share my experience. But that completely throws the entirety of this. That's a paradox, because we are seeing how all is in the becoming and all is perfect in the becoming. So, what do you mean that I have to be a certain way? No, I don't have to be a certain way. I am perfect as I am. You are perfect as you are. So far, you're showing up and doing your best. You are perfect as you are. And yeah, it doesn't have to. I know it may not make sense right now, because it's like, oh no, you have to do this and you have to do that. No, when you start being in a perpetual state, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't do this and do that to improve yourself. Please keep improving yourself. But again, we see that when the pendulum swings to action, it also swings to rest. as much as you're doing and doing, you shouldn't get carried away by doing, because it's not in the things that you do that prove your worth. You are worthy, period. You are worthy because you exist. You are a part of the bigger picture. Even though you don't see it, even though you don't feel it, you are a part of the bigger picture. So things are happening exactly as they should. Things are happening in perfection.